Alright, The Order 1886 is, well, a bad game. But not because the game is bad. I mean, if we were to look at this a different way, if we were to look at 1886 and it came out by a third-party developer, possibly like a new developer or something, someone who's really not made their name yet, and they released it with under par graphics, what we'd expect on the PS4. The voice acting was still great, the story was still there, the mechanics were all the same. We'd all be sitting around thinking, wow, this is a good attempt. That they've really tried to do something here with the interactive movie style of things. It's got some slow pacing issues. The game mechanics aren't brilliant for the shooter side of things. The cover system's alright, the weapons are okay. But we'd be like, wow, this is pretty good. I'm excited for The Order 1887 or whatever the hell it's going to be called. But because the game came out as such a high-profile game, it came out as the killer app. Really is what they were trying to go for. This is next-gen graphics, which was insane, and they really pulled that off. But because it had all this hype around it, it didn't deliver. A lot like another game that came out recently, which was Destiny. That had all that hype around it, and it just didn't deliver, and it got poor marks. Probably it was marked worse than it should have been, because it didn't deliver the expectations. And I think this game is another game that suffered from that. Saying that, it hurt me too. I was playing it, I got to about the 2-hour mark, and I'm thinking to myself at this point, geez, I am 1/3 of the way through this game, if it's only 6 hours or so. And I got to the 2-hour mark and I thought, I am bored. I've had literally one firefight, which the mechanics were poor, the cutscenes were long, boring. I couldn't really get into them because I was always afraid that a quick time button bashing scene was about to happen. Sometimes it did, and then I'd have to go back and play that part of the scene again and repeat it. And the walking, oh my goodness, the walking just went on and on and on. But it's a bad game because we expect more from a developer like Ready at Dawn, and because we expect more, it's failing harder. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. That sort of system. But saying that, it shouldn't have been hammered down as hard as it had been. I didn't want to play after 2 hours because I thought, I'm wasting my time. Do I even bother wasting the next 4 hours or 5 hours, however long it's going to be? But it shouldn't have been hammered so hard. But why is it a bad game now? Because the mechanics aren't there. They're poor mechanics. The pacing's terrible. The way they turn the story looks lovely, voice acted incredibly well. Everything in that sense is perfect. The presentation is perfect. The problem is you're walking around for 30 minutes doing nothing, looking at a couple of objects that really aren't adding to the whole atmosphere of the game because you can't go anywhere. You come to somewhere and you think, I just want to hop over that and I just want to look at that. You can't go anywhere. You're just going exactly where the developers want you to go. You walk into the next cutscene, you walk to the next cutscene, you fight 2 people, next cutscene, and it just goes on and on like that. And then some of the bigger battles are just cutscenes, and this is boring. You don't want to be walking around labs for 20 minutes trying to find one piece of paper that you got to read to then go to the next cutscene. I mean, the whole second chapter was one giant cutscene. The pacing is terrible. The mechanics are poor because you don't have the freedom in the movement. The shooter mechanics is pretty poor. I did not enjoy the shooting mechanics. The AI was abysmal. It's like from 10 years ago sort of AI. They'd run back and forth, and it's in a set sort of pattern. It's almost like the old R-type games where you just got to learn the patterns of the bad guys and boom, you got them. But they're not even challenging. They're just literally walking backwards and forwards. Even when the werewolves came in, they would just attack you, run back to the same spot, attack you, run back to the same spot. Even those weren't exciting. I mean, the cinematic feel was amazing. The gameplay was poor, but the gameplay was very poor for such a standard of developer. That should never have happened. And that's ruined this game, really ruined it. Stopping it from being what should be a brilliant 6-7 hour campaign. There's no longevity after that, but people should have loved this game, and people should be wanting to go out and buy it, and people should have been enjoying it for that, and then they sell it, and then you forget about it for the next 2 years because I'm sure they'll be churning that number one out very, very quickly. But yeah, that's why the game is bad, even though it's not a bad game. if someone else brought this out without the expectation, without the graphics, you'd be like, yeah, it's okay. It's run of the mill. You probably get like 7 out of 10. But at the moment, it's a 5 because it's not just poor. It's incredibly poor for a studio of the standard of Ready at Dawn.